Hey guys, Sweeney here, and welcome to another episode of the Triggercast. This week we have a real treat for you. We have on Ajit from MindValley, and let me read you his description here. It's quite the description, I must say. Now, he is a business strategist and marketer who's also a senior partner at MindValley. MindValley describes himself as one who's pushing humanity forward through culture hacking and revolutionizing the global education system. Now, Ajit himself is known as the Doubler, which is an awesome tagline, I gotta say, because he has a knack for doubling the revenue of every venture he touches. I'm sorry. Going to be a great talk today. Really excited to learn a little bit more about his testing process, some of the lessons he's learned, and also how he runs and manages so many different large companies. So, Ajit, very happy to have you on here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Sweeney. It's a pleasure to be here.
And he's coming from out of the States, so why don't you tell us where you're at right now?
I'm at Kuala Lumpur right now, so it's early in the morning for me. Just woke up and jumped on this interview. So, yep, from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia all the way Southeast Asia.
Nice. And now, I kind of described the tagline there a little bit, but could you kind of give us in 2 minutes or less a little bit better description of what MindValley does, kind of what maybe your core products are, and how you guys came about?
Sure. MindValley is essentially an educational technology company. What we do is we put together education products with technology. Now, when we say education products, we don't mean high school education kind of education products. We're talking about education products which are in the space of personal development, personal productivity enhancement, business training, and that kind of stuff. Mostly working on the area of meditation or in the area of business development. Those are some of the primary areas, and my products revolve around those things. Some of our products that we started with is the Silver method, which probably is one of the most popular ones amongst the ones that we have, which is a 50-year-old system discovered by Jose Silva from Laredo, Texas. And we started the business built on one single website that was promoting one single product of this particular system. And now with over 10 years into the business, we have evolved ourselves to be able to say that we are probably one of the largest companies in the area of personal transformation. And we produce products across different verticals. And that's what MindValley is. And that's what we've been doing. We are also, of course, because, as I said, we are an education technology company, what we, of course, do also is allow and go beyond online courses. We go into things like coaching. We go into things like seminars and events and things like that. So we have a large scope of things, but all related to educating individuals to be better human beings in some way or another, in either personal life or in their business side or both. Whatever it may be. But that's what MindValley does.
Very, very awesome. And I got to say, it's very impressive to go from one product to, just looking on the site, I have no idea how many products you guys have, but it seems pretty deep.
Yeah, hundreds of them. We have over 100 plus authors that we work with on a yearly basis.
Wow. And that's one of the things I'm curious, with your customers and with your leads, and that's probably something we'll dig into later. It's when you have so many products, is it cross-selling? Is it focusing on getting leads in onto a newer product and then figuring out what other products might apply to them? When you have that much depth, I can imagine it can be difficult.
It could be, if you would like to see it that way. What we like to see it is a little bit different. We feel that there is only two ways to really work on a business. One is either you work on the solution side of business, which is basically essentially solving problems, right? When you're a company, sometimes people confuse it with products. Products sometimes become a little bit more internal focused, so people start thinking, what is it that I can create? We approach it a little bit differently. We go, what is it that my client wants? What's the problem that I'm solving? And so we create solutions. And second way of growing a business is just to increase your area of influence, which is basically, in simple terms, sometimes called the traffic. But why we don't call it traffic is because influence is a factor of new leads, re-engaging the old leads, working on different platforms like email, Facebook, Instagram, and at the same point of time, being able to drive new leads from Google AdWords or Facebook and stuff like that. So we like to mix and match, and what we try to do is every year pick a theme. So for example, this year our theme was mostly to grow our solutions side of business. So what we did is we went ahead and created a process of how to onboard an author, how to really work with an author, how to create a product really, really fast or solution really, really fast, how to really put that out in the market really fast, all those kind of things. So what we worked was only on the solution side of the business and not necessarily that much on the influence side of the business. We did some bits on influence, but that wasn't our focus area. So when you work on big or small companies or big areas or small areas, I think what really defines if it'll be complicated or not, if it's complicated in your head in some way. Because if you simply put it the way I just put it, it's not complicated anymore because you know every day you wake up and you just think, how do I make my solution side of business better? And every activity that you do, every networking that you do, every person that you meet, your conversations are revolving around the solution side of the business. And hence your business grows because now you're 100% focused on it, which means that one vertical will grow by 100, 200, 300%. And once one of this vertical, either of the side grows by 100%, your business will grow by 100%. So it's really that simple if you break it down into simpler terms. And I was reading this book. It's called Hard Things About Hard Things by this gentleman called Ben Horowitz from Anderson Horowitz. And he says one thing about CEOs. He says the hardest thing about being the CEO, or the most difficult area, is the CEO himself, which is how would you manage yourself, and how would you manage your state, and how do you manage your emotions, and how do you manage your anxiety or whatever that is, or even your excitement, is what will define if you will be a good CEO or not a good CEO. So that kind of is pretty much the summary of how you can grow a complicated business without actually thinking anything complicated about it, or even a simple business without making it more complicated. It's mostly us who make it more complicated than it is.
That makes a lot of sense. And there's one point that you were talking about and might get kind of passed over, so I do want to bring more attention to, and that is we don't think about it as products, we think about it as solutions. And I think that is a huge point that in this day and age often gets overlooked. A lot of times we're so focused on ourselves or what we can create, we forget to think about the customer, we forget to think about the client. And especially with a startup or a software, they live or die based on whether someone uses it. And someone's going to use it if you're providing a solution to a problem they have. And if you're answering a solution to a problem that no one has, well, then it's not going to succeed very well. And I think, digital courses and products, we probably forget that too often, or at least most people do. Obviously, you guys seem to have it built into your DNA.
Yep, no, that's true. And surprisingly, yesterday I was watching a presentation by a gentleman called Guy Kawasaki. He was one of the Macintosh team members, and he's a venture capitalist and everything. And he was making a presentation about what is it the most messed up thing that startups do when they're pitching to him. And they said that they come up with these 60 slides explaining their business. And he says the rule should be 10, 20, 30, which means 10 slides, 20 minutes, and 30 font size. And the reason why he says that is in the 10 slides, all you have to really cover is the title of your presentation, the problem that you're addressing, and what's your solution to it. Pretty much that is what you have to do, and that's good enough for 10 slides. I mean, that was his key pointers there. Like, these were the first three slides that you need to have. But we, like you said, sometimes seem to complicate everything and go, oh, what can I create next? But who cares?
And I'm curious, with your kind of sales copy and sales pages, I'm sure it's very hard to find the right balance between direct response, which can be a little bit hit them over the head, compared to kind of the softer side of selling, I would say. There's probably a fine balance there. Obviously, certain sales material can be extremely aggressive. Mm-hmm. Do you kind of have that built in a little bit to the format of more so just, hey, here's the problem, here's our solution?
It's very, very built in. We follow a template to write sales letters, but at the same time, we never do the hit you in the face kind of sales letter, because we like to give certain level of respect to our clients, and we don't want to disrespect their intelligence or disrespect any of the things, because we don't see our clients as a client of this product. We see a client as a long-term partnership with them. So that means every time I disregard or challenge or not appreciate their intelligence, I am mostly killing a relationship. sometimes this like really old school copywriters, and they maybe write in their own terms. I don't know it. We just don't follow it. But they say think your client as a stupid idiot or something like that. I've heard this many times from some direct response people, and that's just not true. Clients are not stupid. They were never. They just are in need, and if you address the need in a nice way or in an asshole way, either of the ways they are going to buy, because if they believe that your solution is good for them at the price that you're promising, and the product is going to do what you say they're going to do. And you can do that in a nice way, and you can do it in a really bad way. There's a book, and I'm sorry I'm throwing out so many book names, but that also shows you that how we operate here as a company is we don't try to be the smartest, or we don't think that we are the smartest people. We just think that we just study a lot more and we just work better than anybody else, is why we are able to gain success. So there's another book called Spin Selling. It's I don't remember the name of the gentleman, but the book basically covers 4 steps to making a sale, which is S is situation, S is situation, P is problem, I is implication, and N is need payoff. That really simply means is if you have a conversation with your potential client where you only ask qualifying questions, you can actually make a much powerful sale. And this gentleman is like, again, somebody who has invested into many companies and all that kind of stuff, so he really knows his stuff. So what would happen is you would ask a person a question that will help them identify that they are in a particular situation. Then your situation is basically, I cannot get off my bed, let's say, for example. The problem is because, let's say, maybe you are overweight. I'm just giving a hypothetical example, right? So what happens is you get them to say, okay, so what is the situation that we are facing right now? So they are saying they are in a particular situation. They are the ones who are really identifying that may be the problem. Then you get them to kind of say, okay, what will happen if you stay in this problem for the next 6 months or 6 years? Now they're really going into the problem, but you're not really saying anything. They are saying everything. You're only asking the right questions for them to be able to identify. And then you position your product by saying, so if you don't want to be, so now the person knows what is the implication of if they stay in that state forever and ever and ever. Now you go in with your payoff and say, hey, so what if we did this and this is the result you could get? Would it make sense? Now, of course, the acceptability of the person is 1,000% higher because they are conditioned in some way, because they have now chosen to say, I am in a situation, I have this problem, I need to get out of it. Oh, you have somebody who can help me get out of it? Great, let's work. Especially if I do a risk reversal right there by saying, I give you a 30-day money-back guarantee forever and ever and ever. So that way, the person has no reason to say no at that point, but at the same point in time, the way you made the sale is not by talking to somebody, but working with somebody. So it's much easier, but at the same point in time, the result's the same. Sometimes it's better, actually.
Gotcha, that makes a lot of sense. That being said, when you take that kind of format and then you put it onto a page, which is a one-way conversation, it can be a little bit hard to translate.
Not really, not really. Think about it this way. So if you would start a promotion, instead of starting a promotion by saying, here is who I am, know about me, this is my system, you start by saying, let me do a survey with you. That is you identifying a situation. When you do your first video, you don't really talk about you, but you talk about, this is the situation that most of the people encounter. Now, you can already gauge that by the kind of questions you will ask as to what's the situation that they're going to present, who is going to qualify as a person, right? So now when you're going into the problem, you go in knowing that the person is from this situation, because that's how they've qualified themselves, and you go, okay, so maybe the problem is this. Comment below so I can know if this is the problem, or are you facing this problem at this point? Do you think this is the problem we need to address? What do you think? The person who has just identified the situation will agree? Most likely, yes. This is your second qualifying page. You qualify them now as a person who identifies the problem themselves. Now, implication, you can probably do your side instead of them saying it, but in a way that they kind of can relate to it. So you could even go in saying, I was like this. This is where your story comes in. They go, I was like this. This was my problem, exactly like your problem. This is how I thought my life is going to be, but it changed, right? You've communicated the implication. This is also the time where you go, this is how it changed, and here is a technique that you can use to help it. that is also giving in your results in advance. Now, of course, I'm walking you through a whole process of promotion, but you can do the same thing while in a direct response sales letter. And then when you hit them with the final webinar or final sales page, now you are capturing all these three things and really presenting the offer. And that's pretty much it. I'm not saying your sales letter will flow this way. Sales letter will flow exactly how 21 or 28 step sales letter, whatever format you use, flows. It will flow the exact same way, but you would consider what your client has already said, and so your conversion rate would actually be more than instead of being less. But you don't have to push anymore because they already have qualified themselves.
And out of curiosity, do you have any examples of that kind of survey or launch strategy similar to that, or was that more just kind of shooting from the hip?
No, we all of ours are same. So everything that we do in MindValley is scalable, replicable, and it's important that that is an easy. Because of that, all of these are actually, you could find any of the MindValley flows, and they are the same. They all follow the same system in one way or another. Sometimes they would not start with qualifying with survey, but they would start qualifying with a landing page. So they would very much address a particular situation, all our landing pages, and we will work with that situation through the process of the entire promotion or entire webinar sequence.
And it kind of sounds like the MindValley product launch formula, for lack of a better term. It sounds like you guys have kind of switch the hard pitching that most people do, the hammering of the head. Instead, you aim to qualify and use, kind of the survey or the landing pages and things, so it's a softer sell, so to speak.
Yeah, in a way. I don't want to call it softer or harder sell. It's just we feel that that's the right way to sell. Because it's not that our conversion numbers are any less than anybody else in our industry. We also, not only we put out more offers, we can put out the best converting offers pretty much in our industry. Like if $1 EPC is the average of the industry, or the best average of the industry, or the higher average of the industry, that's what you're going to get from us. If not, then we will not put that offer out. So it's not that we want to not convert. That's not the point. The point is to have a long-term relationship with the client while I'm still converting. So that's the reason why we don't hit them on the head and try to make obnoxious promises, but we instead go in with an approach which makes sense, which people can relate to, and hence they buy. So it's
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's not that it's not selling, because soft sell sometimes can be related to also your conversion rate must be less, but that's not the point.
Gotcha. So I don't know the correct term for it. Then maybe you guys need to think up something you guys can call that formula. But you guys still get it done, but you do it in a different way.
Yeah, which also differentiates us from the rest of the individuals in our industry. That's a good thing. I mean, we haven't thought of a term. We will think of one for next time.
And now, so moving forward, you guys have a testing process that I kind of heard about and was brought aware about. I know and you have some examples, or there's one particular example where you guys a lot of times will give away a bonus. MindValley will give away a bonus. And what you guys did is you added that into the checkout page for the cart, and it helped increase completed checkouts and sales by 23%, which is obviously, not only is it huge, but it's also funny because you're not changing anything. You guys were already giving them this free bonus. You simply added it in on the cart page instead of delivering it afterwards. So I'm curious to hear a few more, kind of techniques or hacks that you guys have tried that have worked out, or maybe that you're trying now. And then you can also kind of tell us how this testing process works and how other people can use it for themselves.
So I'll start with the testing process. What happens is every day when you study so much, you get a lot of testing ideas. And when you listen to a podcast like this one, stuff like that, you get like a bazillion ideas and you just don't know where to go. So what we do is, instead of just going ahead and testing everything that we can find, we go through a process which actually allows us to value rank what is a good test and what is not a good test. So what we would do is we will log all these tests on, say, something like Basecamp, and we'll literally list down each one of them. And then we will go, is this test replicable, scalable, and easy? If it's replicable, scalable, or easy, right? And by replicable, it means that can it be replicated across different websites. By scalable, it means can it be scaled up without actually too much hassle with it, which means can this test further lead to further growth over time? And third is it easy to put out? So like it's a simple test and you can set it up in an hour or 2 hours,
And
something
just
like
to
that.
clarify, does it have to hit each of these, or you're just seeing if it hits at least one?
So how you would rank is if it has 3 stars, which means if it's replicable and scalable and easy, that's the first test that you will do. If it is 2 stars, then it will be less, and 2 stars it will be less. 1 star will be like the least. The thing that happens when you do that is most of the times you're always testing things that are highly relevant and will give you immediate results and fast results. Sorry, one more factor sometimes we use, and it's actually an important one, is it proven, which means it's not just somebody who has suggested out of their mind saying, oh, I think we should do this. It can't be that kind of test. It actually must be proven somewhere, or some psychological story has to be behind that for it to work. So if it's not proven ever, then we would not test it. So 4 stars in this scenario will be the highest rated test and will be done first, then 3 stars, 2 stars, and 1 star. The 4 factors being replicable, scalable, easy, and proven. And that's how we know if a test is worth doing or a test is not worth doing. And that way we also clean up a lot, because the 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star probably will never get tested.
Gotcha. That is, I'm going to post that on the Growth Hacker community, and we'll see how that one does, because I know that's a constant problem, and it feels a little silly because your answer is so simple, but I mean, there's a lot of genius there in the force, and just in the rating system, because then you're always testing, as you say, like kind of the cream of the crop, and you're not wasting your time with these 2 stars or 1 stars. But I know that's a constant thing. Everyone's always learning about all these growth hacks and all these crazy growth hacks, and
I lost you.
so how does that kind of look? Do you guys just kind of have your 4 star, your 3 star, your 2 star, and your 1 star, and they just get kind of put in, or what does the organization there look like?
So then 4 stars is going to be, so we do this every week. And in that week, let's say there are 3 4 stars. Those are the ones that are going to get implemented and tested. Some of them, of course, are testing, but takes a lot of time. In the sense of time that it will get the results. So let's say a checkout test takes a little bit more time than a landing page test, because just the amount of traffic that goes to it is different. So we try to get tests done within a course of a week, if not in 2 or 3 weeks. But we would just rate 4 stars every week and go, this is a 4-star test, let's do this first, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. And we just follow the 4 stars first, and that's how it is.
The 4-star system to success. Whose idea was it, or was it kind of a team effort?
Well, I don't know where this comes from, but I'm almost sure that it comes from some kind of book somewhere, because we, like I said, we just study.
Oh, he froze for a second. We're going to see if he comes back. And he is back.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
your screen froze, just so that you know.
Well, yours did too. So it was mutual. It was mutual. But anyways, jumping back into it. So is that? I mean, is that all? Is there anything else to the process, or is that about it?
Well, no, that's pretty much the process, because you asked me to share. I have one example right now that I could recall of a test that we recently did. It was about deleting the phone number field from our checkout. This wasn't done in an English business. This was done in our Hispanic business, but we're testing it now in the English business as well. But basically what they did is they used to have a phone number as a requirement on the checkout. They took it out, and I think the conversion increased by like 30% or something like that. I don't have the exact number on me, but that's a good test to run in case somebody has phone number on their checkout. Unless you absolutely need it because you're going to call them, you probably don't need that field.
Yeah, we do have the phone number, because with our abandoned carts, we'll actually call them. So it's interesting because you say that it increased by 30%. I think by having the phone number, we increased our sales by 30% by calling the abandoned carts. So you're kind of, but if you're not calling them, then why do you have it?
Exactly. So that's why I said if you're not calling them, then you don't need it. Same was for the digital products that sometimes, we tend to follow the credit card systems and we feel that, oh, we must get that dress. Taking out that dress also increases conversion if you're never going to mail them. So if you're not selling a physical product, or you're never going to do a direct response mail to them, you can just take out the address, and that will actually bump the conversions too. So these are just tests that are in the queue. I haven't proven them, but we haven't proven them, but we know it rated high on the proven star. So we know this is a test that is worth doing.
Gotcha. And do you guys have any special tests or tricks that you guys do for abandoned carts?
We have a sequence, a follow-up sequence that goes out. That seems to work well. We haven't done the phone calling thing because of the amount of transactions that we have and the abandoned carts we have in a day. We can't really handle it at this point because we already have a lot of phone calls.
Irony there. The irony there. Well, it's kind of like saying there's just so much money here that we just can't hire enough people to pick it up.
Oh,
And you just froze there again. But he's going to be back in 3.
Tons of money that you always leave on the table.
He's back. So you blurred out there for a second.
No, I was just saying that every company leaves a lot of money on the table. You just have to, I mean, that's just always going to be the case. You can't, if you're saying that you make all the money that you can make, you probably are $1,000 billion company. That just can't happen. There's always more money to be made than you can imagine. It's just, there is a certain flow to growing a business, and you can grow at a certain pace, and sometimes it's an HR issue, sometimes it's a technology issue, sometimes it's just a marketing issue. But we try to get through them as fast as we can, but we are not always through them, and that's for sure.
Very good point. I mean, that's part of the reason why I like that 4-star process so much, because there is always 100 things you can test. So at least having some sort of ranking system and knowing this one's a lot more important than this one is very important.
Yeah.
Well, I do wonder if phone calls would end up being a 4-star or not. I guess the scalable would make it. The scalable and the easy would make it hard.
Yeah, it's scalable, but easy is what is a challenge in that particular thing. And we know even if it is not easy, it is something that as a business process we should have, because it also serves clients generally, because we know we do have a call center where people can call to order. But just the whole idea of being able to call for abandoned cart and all that kind of stuff it needs a lot more resources. So it's not that we are leaving everything on the table, but yes, we know that we are leaving a ton on the table because we don't call the guys. But it's something like you said, it's not easy. It's not easy to hire so many people to be able to deliver and make sure that the calls happen. So, well, oh well.
No, yeah. Well, the only reason why I speak to it is because I know that we personally have been doing it more. And how we got started was it was actually one of our customer support guys, and that's kind of how we approach it. We really approach it from a customer support angle. It's not like, hey, you didn't buy this, you should buy this now. It's more just like, hey, we saw you were going to buy this, and you didn't have a chance. Is there any way we can help you? Did you have trouble checking out? Can we answer any questions? And most of our customers that we call, are always ecstatic. It's never like, wow, they called us again. Instead, it's like, oh, Ryan called today. I'm happy. So.
Nice. That's great. That's great. That's always about serving the client, and that always helps. Every time you do something good for the clients usually go, oh, thank you so much. Exactly. Because like I said, people are not stupid. People are actually brilliant. They just sometimes need help, or they just need some help making a decision. They just want to have a conversation. Sometimes that's all it really is required. It's not that they're idiots or anything like that. They're actually super smart, smarter than you are most of the time. Yeah. But the meta business people usually are very, very stupid. I'm joking. It's not true.
And I mean, in this day and age where you can buy a boat online, it's if you're buying some digital course and you're not even getting something tangible, it's reasonable to want to speak to someone before you put down the card.
That's true. That's true. It's about helping the clients, like you said. You pick up the phone and say, hey, can I help you? And usually they would go, yep, and here's my money.
And now for the CEO process. So it seems like, I don't know how many things descriptions, but it seems like you're in charge of a decent amount right now, and I think maybe you have a course or some sort of longer detail on this CEO process you have.
So I handle 4 companies at this point. 3 of them that I co-founded and 1 that I'm the CEO of. So it's quite a few companies, but it's at the same point, it's like how I said in the starting. There's only the power, I think, of growth is about how is about doing less. It's not about doing more. You don't grow by adding things to your bucket. You grow by deleting things from your bucket, because most of the times what happens is we end up doing the whole Pareto principle thing, which means 80% of your time is into 20% of the activities which only get 20% of the result. Sorry, 80% of your time is spent into activities that only get 20% of the result. And that itself right there is where the challenge of growth comes in, because you start to focus on things that maybe don't matter as much. What I do as my process is I'm very, very conscious of what my time goes into. So if it's not worth my time, I just don't look at it. I'm just like that. And I think all CEOs and founders should be that way in some way, is to be able to detach yourself from, but I really think there is $10 there, because nobody cares. And you shouldn't care, because your business is not about $10. It's about the million or 2 million or 10 million or 100 million that you want to make. And if you want to make 100 million, you can't worry about $10. You have to worry about how it all pans out in the big picture. And that's what I try to do. I try to focus on what's the big concept, what's the big people that I need to be able to execute that concept that will add to the bottom line dramatically. Sometimes you're working on the same concept for months because you want to gain a time wealth, which is also one thing that sometimes entrepreneurs don't think. Time wealth is as important as money wealth. So there's a friend of mine when I first started companies, he said there are two ways of you could do a startup. You could either pay in time or you can pay in money. What would you rather pay in? So most of the people tend to do that, they start paying in time. But that's the worst way of investing into a startup. You invest by money, because what happens is you will know if it's going to work or not in the first 1 month or first 2 months or 3 months, whatever is the time cycle of that. But you reduce it to as little as you can, because that gives you a lot more wealth on the long term. And by long term, I don't even mean in 3 years. I mean within the scope of a year, especially if you're a startup, if you're a new business. If you can get time wealth, which means you invest the money, test the shit, and actually see if it works or not, you will move a lot more faster and you will be successful really, really fast. There's a gentleman called Neil Patel. He runs a company called Kissmatrix and QuickSprout. And Neil Patel himself has a brand, and he runs like an agency and stuff. Very, very successful man. And one day I was talking to him, and I was like, why do you think you are more successful than the usual 29-year-old? And he said, I just failed more. I have done so much fuck-ups in my life that I know exactly what will work and what will not work. And so now I don't fail anymore, or my failure rate is much less. Why? Because he always paid in money. He made sure he learned really fast. So by the time he was 25, 26, he had already learned so much that at 29, he's a kick-ass entrepreneur, called to speak everywhere, works with governments, and creates a great company like Kissmatrix. That's what is very important as entrepreneurs, CEOs, that you have to be mindful of, that your time is extremely important. Your mental state is extremely important. Until the time you work on the 20% that brings 80% of the results, or 80% of your time has gone into 80% of the activities that bring 80% of the revenue, and your company that follows the same principle, the company is going to go crazy. It's going to grow really fast. And that's all I do. I really don't do anything else. I just tell my people not to do things.
Interesting. So your answer is simplicity, or I guess what is it? Perfection or excellence, something like that, is when you can't remove anything else. I think it's
Yep. And you can always, but the thing is, you can always remove something. It's like the question of revenue, right? Mm-hmm. Are you leaving money on the table? Yes, always. Can you make the business simpler? Yes, always. So there's always something that is more complicated than it needs to be. It's just that somebody hasn't gone in and asked that question. Is this too complicated? Can we make it simpler? Can we execute the same process? So think about it like this, okay? Just to give you an example on how simplicity works. So we started last year, if you come to MindValley, the same process that I talked about marketing would take about 3 months to build, right? One really good promotion that will make over $1 million would be about 3 months of work that will go in. Earlier this year, we trimmed the process to 15 days. So it would take us about 15 days or about 3 weeks. 3 weeks, a little bit more than 15 days, about 21 days actually. So it would take about 3 weeks to put together a promotion. Right now, it takes us under 2 weeks. It takes about 8 working days to put together the same process, which took 3 months last year. And I'm almost sure that by the new technology that we just finished building, and we proved it, once the marketing of that is built, it takes 7 hours. So technology-wise, we have time gained almost from 3 months to 7 hours. That's a lot of time built. That means I could put out a new offer every single day. Do you see how the business just grew just by working on deleting stuff and working on the more important stuff and building technologies to support that kind of growth? And that's what simplicity is. You just have to try to make it simpler and simpler and simpler. And I'm sure it can even be lesser than 7 hours at some point. I don't know. But 7 hours already is something that I'm like, I don't care. I just want to now build that marketing fast enough so now it, from a 3-day process, it actually really becomes a day or 2-day long process. So that's the mindset that if you operate in, I think allows you to have more freedom, which essentially most of the entrepreneurs start their businesses with, is because they want to create great things in the world, and B, they want the freedom to be what they want to be and do what they want to do. So it creates more freedom because now you have all the time in the world, and secondly, it grows your business by dramatically high scales, and people are happier because they don't have to do some complicated stuff that they don't understand. It's super easy, and everybody can do it.
Makes a lot of sense. One quote I think you'll like: "Stepping over dollars to pick up pennies." That seems to speak to what you're saying a lot. There's a lot of times there's always revenue, and there's sometimes people that are grabbing at the smaller fruit, and that's why they never reach the kind of higher amounts. I think that kind of connects with some of the things you're saying. And also, what I find interesting in this mix is, how does paid acquisition kind of fit into this? Because paid acquisition kind of strikes me as, money spent instead of time spent. And, you can lose a lot of money quickly, but you also get a lot of data and a lot of information back quickly. And obviously, paid advertising tends to scale pretty nicely. So I'm curious what your thoughts on that are, or at least in the context of this.
We invest over $500,000 every month in paid advertising, and that's the way to grow the business. So what we do though is also on that front as well. There is a set process and a set formula that we know works every single time, and all we do is we replicate it as many times as we can and create. So one thing that sometimes happens with paid advertising is people tend to go into untargeted markets and try to go, how I can scale this and all that kind of stuff. We just go, if it can't be targeted marketing, just don't do it. Work on the ROI. Don't worry about the scale of that particular campaign. Work with 100% ROI in the first 30 days. So you can run an effective cycle, and it builds up because you'll start with one offer, and then there will be the next one and the next one. And by the end of the year, now you have 12 offers. You're making maybe 100, 200, 300 grand every month with just like really little investment without actually putting a lot of money in there. Because to grow till the first 10,000 a month is actually fairly easy. It's not that hard. It's beyond that it becomes really, really hard because you get into really tricky optimization processes and all that. We try to go beyond 10,000, of course, but what I'm saying is for an entrepreneur who's just starting, all you need to go for is, can I create 6 offers this year where I can invest $10,000 a month, which is I will invest $60,000 every month in paid advertising. Paid advertising is way, way, way faster than SEO or any other format of organic reach. It's, of course, paid advertising gives you a lot more leverage. And we just say that. And then if you are working smartly, you would have worked on the solution side of the business, which means most of your products are either related or can be relatable, which means you can retarget all the audience. And we just leverage. So that's how we work a lot with leveraging on what we already have instead of I don't know if I'm making sense at this point. Maybe I'm just blabbering.
No. It does make sense. The 6 offers, $10,000 a month part is a little bit less clear. I think what you're saying is that by building up something that scales and is repeatable, you might not be able to reach that $100,000 a mark a month. But if you have 6 different offers and you're spending $10,000 a month on each one, then you're still growing, and that's how you can grow it elsewhere. And then because everything is related, it does all connect. It might not be completely overlapped, but it is kind of all connected. And the solutions, you are focused on the solution side of business. They should be good offers, and they should hopefully connect somehow.
Yeah, ideally that's how you build your offer. So think about it like this. What we said in the first part of the interview was you're always building a solution, which means you're always asking questions. But your audience is pretty much always the same. They're just answering different things, right? But they have a connection between the answers they will give because they relate to you in a particular way and expect you to create certain kind of results. So the kind of answers they will give you will most likely be related to what you have proven to already kind of deliver in some way or another, maybe with a product or a free training or free content that you give away. What's going to happen then is when you, let's say you were a business coach. Let's just take a random example, okay? The question number one might be, might have got you to create a solution on how to build a business, starting first thing, how to start a business. The second answer that you might get from your audience is, how do I grow a business? The third answer might be, how to go take your business from $100,000 a year to $1 million a year. The fourth question might be, how do I create a social media strategy? Something completely that may look completely different, but let's say if you were serving mostly digital businesses, that may be an answer that you get. Then another answer may be, how do I start my first Google advertising campaign? You're a business coach. All of a sudden, you now have 6 different ways of creating a solution that can help your audience, right? But now you have 6 different solutions for, if you technically think, 6 different audiences on Facebook, if you're starting your advertising on Facebook. Now what you do is you simply plug these offers into Facebook, investing $10,000 in each, but retargeting between these 6 offers, because now they have visibility of you as an author. If you are the single author, at the same point in time, now you have 6 different channels where you're getting maybe 3, 4, 5, 6,000 leads every month, and investing maybe $60,000. You're probably generating about, at this point, already a business that creates maybe $1 million a year if you could do just this 6. But it becomes that easy because now it's only 6 offers. So that means you have to create 1 product every 2 months. And that's not hard. But instead of that, if you go in how to create $1 million business, it looks really hard and out there. But if you really do the math like this, it becomes very, very easy because there's a certain cadence that you can follow, because you know if you repeat this enough times, your business will become XX dollars. A classic example of that would be somebody called Brendan Burchard. I don't know if you've looked at his work. But if you look at that model, and I'm giving Brendan's example instead of MindValley only because MindValley sometimes works with authors, and it might look difficult to people to go, oh, but you know, I'm just one guy, and that's all this business is all about. That's why I'm giving Brendan's example, because he's just one guy. His team is literally like 4 people or something like that. So he's really small in the sense of team size, but his revenue of the business is upwards of 10 million, as far as I remember. Last conversation that I had with him, it was something upwards of 10 million. So that's a lot of things. But if you really look at Brendan's product suite, there may be 8 products in his entire suite. Maybe it would be probably less than 8 products. So, but think about the amount of focus he could put into, because he created those 8 products probably in the scope of last 4 years, which means he was doing a product every 6 months, and he could generate over $10 million with just that, right? And that's called just going in and doing that math and saying, how much do I need to create the wealth that I want to create? And how much should it cost? What is the multiple for it? How many customers do I need? So let's say, for example, if you create a product that's $1,000, you only need, say, 10 customers to make $10,000, which means $100,000, $120,000 business a year, right? So now it looks, oh, okay, so all I have to do is make a sale every other day or every 3 days, basically. And so it looks achievable. It looks small. It looks like something that you can actually do. And so you create your business really, really fast, and you grow your business really, really fast. And this can be done at any level, at 100,000 level, 1 million level. We do it at our level, which is multi-8-figure, the higher off. So it's you just have to do that math, and it becomes really simple after that. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It makes a lot of sense. I know some people will probably be listening to this and be like, oh, I just need to spend 60 grand a month on paid advertising, no problem. But obviously, you work your way up, you get there, and step 1 is breaking even on the ROI on paid advertising, and then taking it from that level. So I actually have below here acquisition and how you guys achieve your growth. It sounds like you like a lot of the paid channels. Yeah, so I would like to hear more about that. You know, I was listening actually to a podcast earlier today, so I might as well bring this up. And it was Tim Ferriss and Alexis Ohana from founder of Reddit, and they were saying, they were kind of speaking against paid acquisition, saying that once you stop paid acquisition, you find out like what customers actually want your solution instead of, like you're kind of providing your solution, something to that effect. So basically, they kind of spoke ill of paid acquisition. Now, this was more so in the frame of startups. Curious what you think about that.
Well, there are different ways of growing a business. I am not saying that paid acquisition is the only way of doing it, but I don't think it's evil or anything like that. At the same point in time, I don't think trying to organically grow your business is also evil. My only thing is with organic growth, unless you're sitting in Silicon Valley, which these guys are, it is damn fucking slow. It takes you years to get any traction. It takes you years and hours to get any data or any valuable information. The reason why it works for somebody like Tim or companies that are sitting in San Francisco is because it's a network. It's like having JVs, a lot of them. So if you have JVs, a lot of them, then you don't have to worry about paid acquisition because your friends are going to mail for you, give you the initial list, and you build from there. And that's absolutely fine if you've got it. Most of the startups don't have it. Most of the startups are not sitting in San Francisco. Most of the startups have not spent 10 years building those relationships. If you can do that, and if you can wait until then, good for you, do that, because that will actually give you more profits. But if you're starting a business right now, and this is your first business, and this is the first time you're trying to do anything, organic is the slowest path to figure out if you're going to win or lose. It's like paying in time, like I said. You end up paying a lot of time. So for me, I'm not saying I'm against organic growth. If you've got the partners, if you've got the friends, if you've got that covered, if you've got a big VC backing you, that's the better way. You'll make more profit, 100% guaranteed. But if you don't have all of that, start with paid advertising. Start with Facebook, for that matter, even in paid advertising. It's easier to get a jump start at this point on that.
Gotcha. So that being said, acquisition, are your channels mostly Facebook, some AdWords? Do you have any, would you say 80% of it's paid, or do you kind of also have some sort of maybe organic strategies? I'm curious how that makes it.
We have a nice mix. I don't know the percentage per se at this point right now, but we have our biggest investment is Google. Our second biggest investment is Facebook. Our third biggest investment is email drops. But what we do after that is our fourth, or I would say around actually our third biggest investment actually would be retargeting on Facebook and Google. Fourth biggest investment would be email drops. And without investment, what we've done is we have played a very solid content strategy. So what we do is we really engage people through emails and through Facebook by giving free content away. And that what we've done is in a way where we really brand MindValley as a company. So what happens is there's a strong recall on everything that we do. If you are in our area of influence, you would really have a recall for the brand name because we brand it really, really, really strongly. So we have a really big content play behind, but there's almost negligible investment in that because what we do is everything that comes through paid is essentially rechanneled to go into our social and go into our email funnels. So essentially they become like zero cost in some way, but at the same point in time, it creates a lot of revenue. We know that simply by retargeting on Facebook and doing content strategy, we have bumped our revenue by 20-30% just by adding that on our webinars, I mean.
You've bumped your webinars 20-30%, you think?
Yeah. I mean, right now, if we call it sublist, I don't know how it's called traditionally, but we call it sublist when somebody signs up for a webinar. 30% of our sublist or 40% of our sublists actually come from Facebook through retargeting or through content play.
Gotcha. I actually didn't know that you guys did webinars as heavy as it sounds like you guys do.
Oh, we only do webinars these days. That's all we do. We don't do launches. It's too much work.
There you go. So that being said, talk to me about webinars.
So what we've done is last year, like I said, told you, it would take about 3 weeks to prepare anything. What we did at that point is we were like, this takes three months to prepare a thing, right? So we were like, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look scalable. This looks like a pain in the ass. So we said, okay, what are the different formats we can try? So there was a point where this was a challenge that I took, and I said, you know what, I'm going to put together something in 2 weeks, and let me see what that would be. I'll put together a promotion that will perform equally or better than what we do in 3 months, and let me see what we can do. So what I did is I just said, well, in 2 weeks, what can you put together? Pretty much a webinar. That's all you can put together. So we tested a webinar, and it converted same as.
It converted the same as, I'm going to guess, a traditional sales page.
Yeah, sorry, what?
You froze for a second.
Yeah, no, I meant instead of the 3-month-long launch process, we put together a webinar, which took me only like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks with the team to put together. And I was like, okay, so, and it got same results. Actually, in that particular scenario, it got a little bit better results. So we said, hey, looks like we may be overthinking the process because everybody talks about these damn launches. So maybe we are just overthinking it. Maybe we don't need to do it. And then we did it again as like a webinar, and then again like a webinar. And by December, we had realized we didn't really need to do a launch. We could just do a webinar, and it was equally high converting. It got in the same or better revenue. It, for that matter, had better engagement because people were actually going to an event and they were kind of showing up for something. So we were like, hey, why don't we just do this? Why do we have to do launches? And since then, we haven't done a launch. We just don't do launches anymore. We just do webinars. And there's a set process. It's exactly the same. If you look at it from outside, it looks different. But if you look at the internal process, it's exactly the same. The flow is exactly the same. The way a webinar will be delivered is exactly the same. The way a landing page will be written will be exactly the same. Your pre-launch sequence is going to be exactly the same. So everything is same. It just looks different from the outside because it's a different solution we are presenting.
And with the webinars, so do you still use sales pages? So obviously you have the webinar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bring people to the webinar. What happens after? Is there a sales page once the webinar launch is over?
So what happens is post-webinar, this is the flow. So when the webinar is playing and we pitch the offer in the webinar, the sales page will pop right below the webinar. And then once that is done, we will send them a link to replay of that webinar, which will have a link to the sales page. And then there will be about a 5 to 6 day closing sequence, which will basically answer their questions, present testimonials, social proof, all the triggers basically. I'm sure this is digital triggers, so you guys already know about the 6 influence triggers. So we use the 6 influence triggers and maybe a few more like results in advance and etc. And we just throw that in the last 5 days, and that's pretty much it.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And what are your numbers look like? Actually, I guess it doesn't matter what the numbers look like. It works. I'm just curious because I know a lot of people don't attend webinars. So.
But that's okay. That's why we have replays.
And it works out all right. People still watch an hour webinar on the replay, or?
It doesn't matter because it's so the thing is so okay. Now I have to go back a little bit again. So sorry about this. They're all long answers in some way. But what we would do is, let's say when you sign up, so remember the spin process or the process that we do before. So before I actually present the offer, I've created the need big enough that even if I just show them a sales page, they will buy. So I don't actually have to do the webinar. I do the webinar because that's the commitment that we have done with them, that we'll do a webinar and online training, right? So what's happening is before the webinar, they get about 2 to 3 pieces which will cover the spin elements. Like I was saying, they will make sure that they understand the situation they're in, the problem that they're facing, the results in advance, so they feel that they can get the results that they desire. We build up their confidence in the product, build up their confidence in the author, and then 20% to 30% of them will actually come to the webinar. The remaining 70%, they're already trained to buy in some way. They already know why they need this product. So even if they come to the sales page straight away, they convert high. So our sales page will convert like at 10%, 12% for the sublist. So it's pretty good conversion rate for something like that.
Because you handle the marketing right, so by the time it hit the sales page, they're already ready. The job
They're
is done.
already ready. Yeah, we are just handling objections at that point, just making sure if there's any last question that they have, we answer that. So they can choose not to come to the webinar. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Well, maybe that spreadsheet that they shared in War Room will help speed up the process a little bit on headlines.
Mm-hmm. That could help. Yeah.
So I mean, we're basically, time-wise about running out. I do have a few tiny more questions. I know you have a private mastermind Zen Entrepreneur. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do have a private mastermind. It's called Zentrepreneur. You can go to zentrepreneur.com or just Google Zentrepreneur because the spelling can be tricky, and you will get zentrepreneur.com as a result. There are two-level masterminds that we have. One is a simple mastermind that anybody can join. It's like 99 bucks a month or something like that. And then there is the elite mastermind, which is $7,000. But that you get private access to me, you get private access to a event that we do where you also get access to Vision, and that is more where we will even jump on a call and help your business. So that's a little bit more exclusive, but you have to apply to get in that one. And those are the only two things that we do for entrepreneurship niche, and that's pretty much it. You also get, like, if you join the elite or the basic one, you get $1,000 product for free, especially because you'll come from Digital Triggers. So just let us know, and we'll make sure that you get that. That's a product where I explain my entire process on how to double a business in a year.
You're saying the $1,000 product, or you're saying the mastermind?
It's a $1,000 product, but we will give you for free because you're coming from Digital Triggers for either of the Zenpreneurs that you sign up for.
Well, I appreciate that. 5x5 principle on productivity and managing multiple projects. Do you want to divulge into that before we go?
Oh man, that was an old presentation I did. I don't remember the details of that anymore at this point, but it like my principles on productivity has evolved from that point as well, and the principle is basically what I shared today, which is I like to delete more and more stuff. I only like to work on things that matter and really matter. I don't do any priorities that are more than I can count on my hand, which is 5, not the other hand, just one hand. So you never have more than 5 priorities in business, and that keeps your business very simple, and it scales faster. It grows much faster when your priorities are less. So there is, if you join Zenpreneur, you get it, but if you want, Sweeney, I can send you a presentation which we call the Achievers Productivity Sheet, and if you want to give it to your audience, you can. It's a short, maybe 10-minute video that explains how to be extremely productive in your business, and it's a sheet that you can literally follow. And if you fill it in, you get everything done, and that's pretty much what you need to do in business, and you will be super productive. I can send it to you if you want.
Yeah, no, definitely, I'd appreciate that. So that being said, instead, then, I'm kind of a little bit curious. Do you kind of have any personal hacks, or so outside of like meditation, like how do you handle overwhelm? Do you have someone that manages your inbox? Do you have like an Evernote system for ideas, or the delete more and more? I'm definitely on board, but I'm curious. What are do you have any processes or software in place that kind of make sure that actually happens?
So for inbox, I have the principle of inbox zero. If you don't know about it, just Google it. It's basically either when you touch your email, you touch it only once. You then either reply, delete, or archive, and that's pretty much. And unless it's extremely something that needs more time, you would maybe mark this unread, but that should be extremely rare. So I follow the process of inbox zero. For managing my email generally, because I get a lot of email. I generally have the principle of 1 win a day, which means that if I can get 1 really big win a day, I'm happy. I don't have to worry about anything else. I would consider that day as a success. I'm very mindful of the reverse gap principle. If you don't know what is a reverse gap principle, it's taught by a guy called Dan Sullivan, who is available at the Strategic Coach. I think that's his domain name. He's also a coach for tons of other entrepreneurs. There's a program called Pure Genius from him that explains the reverse gap principle. The reverse gap principle is basically usually what would happen as entrepreneurs is we will look at the future and we'll go, I wanted to be that business and I'm not there yet. It's extremely frustrating as an entrepreneur on the day-to-day to manage your state, to be frustrated about the goals that you had set and you haven't achieved. So what happens is, at that point, if you look at where you came from, it is extremely satisfying because your reverse gap is probably even bigger. So let's say you were a $10,000 business, now you're a $100,000 business, but you want it to be a $1 million business. If you look at $1 million, you get frustrated because you're like, I am not even like close. Whereas if you look at you were a $1,000 business, you would go, holy shit, I have actually come this far. So this far actually helps you manage the state of your mind, which is my principle when I get frustrated, irritated, overwhelmed. I go, what the hell is happening in life, I would usually look at the reverse gap and go, it's okay. I'm getting there. It's a process. Sometimes I might have missed my timelines and stuff like that. One thing that we as human beings do is we tend to overestimate what we can achieve in a year and underestimate what we can do in three. You can grow your income by 10x if you work with a 3-year goal instead of working with a 1-year goal. In 1 year, you can think you can do 10x, but usually you can't. You can do maybe 2x or 3x or 4x, depending on the size of your business. But to get 10x, you need 2 to 3 years, and that's exactly what also helps as a mindset, because it allows you to go, I don't need to bother with like my long goals. So that is one more process that I follow. There are a lot of little hacks like these which help you manage your state. Like I would not start my day without studying. I need to study something when I start my day. It could be a course, it could be a book, it could be a YouTube video, it could be anything. Before even I open my inbox, before I do anything, that's the first thing that I do. And the reason for that is it jumpstarts your day, because you've got, say, an inspirational idea because you watched an inspirational video, or a business idea and you're like, holy shit, this is genius. And that helps you, or a productivity idea, and that jumpstarts your day because you start your day on a high. So that's what I do as well. I have almost like an hour-long ritual before I look at my email. That's the hour that I call it my power hour, that I would do. That would involve either meditation. It's not that I do it every day, but I do it sometimes. Either it will be workout. Again, I don't do it every day, but I do it sometimes. I would make love to my wife. That is something that I do every day. And I would study. That is something that I would do every day. So that's for sure. This 1 hour sets me up for the day because I've emotionally positioned myself. I have inspirationally positioned myself, and I've physically positioned myself and mentally positioned myself by doing these activities. So I think that's extremely important, to be productive every day. And then I define my one win of the day. So I position myself to win every single day.
So I'm excited to hear about the book coming out called The Power Hour.
Not anytime soon.
Not much of a writer?
No. Terrible writer. Terrible.
Really? Well, you know, Jordan Belfort was a horrible writer too, and he wrote a New York Times bestseller, and then it became quite the famous movie. So.
Oh wow, I didn't know he was a horrible writer. I mean, nowadays what I've done, and that's my hack for writing, is I've hired a writer, and what I do is I just record audios and I send it to them, and they write it into a proper readable article. Because sometimes my comprehension is just funny, so yeah, I say things that don't make any sense. So they clean it up for me. So hacks like that, definitely I'm also doing now.
Very smart.
But yeah, not my priority. That's not my thing for the year, for the quarter. So it's okay. It's happening on the sidelines.
And then, so with that, I mean, this is a subject I'd like to hear more about. We don't have the time for it. That's why I'm, kind of pushing you to do it elsewhere. But with that 3-year kind of principle, is there a system that you follow or a way that you break that down to achieve that, or no?
No, I put it down, but I'm not attached to it, because what may happen is in 3 years, because 3 years is a lot of time, right? So what may happen is a year from now, your goals may change. So if I attach myself to the 3-year vision, I would frustrate myself the other way, because I'll go, no, this is what I wrote and I must follow it. You change as a human being and your goals should change. But what happens is eventually, if you're really committed to it, you will stick to it, or the same thing will happen just in a different way. So I don't get attached to how I will get there. I am only attached to the result, to a certain degree, that if my happiness is impacted, then I would maybe even go either higher from that or lower from that, depending on what I feel. So for me, it's extremely important that I'm happy in the now. So right now, I'm having a great time. Even if my future may look like, oh, you will not be a billionaire, I don't really care. I just want to be happy as every day. At the same point, I keep creating the future that I want to create, and it has worked out very, very well for me. I've grown my income 10x. Definitely in the past 3 years, and I can see it will happen in the next 3 as well, just because you're just aligned with yourself in every day and you're doing great work, so results come. And you're always working for growth, and that's it.
Gotcha. Well, that's a beautiful note to end off on. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
And stick around afterwards for a second and we'll chat a little bit, all right?
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for listening.